This program is purely opinionated and only meant to spark discussion and debate. There is no discriminatory nor defamatory intent. Topics and proposals are point of view derived from deductive reasoning. So it is back. The UEFA Champions League is back again for the 2018-2019 season. It kicks off officially on the 18th of September. Now, the group stage is arguably sometimes the most exciting before it enters uh, maybe the quarterfinals or the round of 16. And there were a lot of interesting matchups in the pot draw. We start off with Group A. Group A sees Atletico Madrid, UEFA Super Cup champions, champions of the Europa League, with Dortmund, Borussia Dortmund, Monaco, and Club Brugge. Club Brugge are the Belgian Super League or Belgian Pro League champions. Um, and so they are, of course, aiming to be as competitive as all the other, you would say, non-traditional Champions League teams. In this group, though, we do expect Atletico Madrid to come out on top. Borussia Dortmund or Monaco may be second place finishers. Um, Arguably, Dortmund would be the stronger team of the two, so we'd expect Dortmund to be emerging with Atletico Madrid. Sometimes, though, Monaco do advance out of their groups with, sheer dominance and, that promise to compete at the high level in the next round. So we can look for big things from Monaco, but in this Group A here, we do expect Atletico Madrid to be followed by Borussia Dortmund. We'd say Monaco would finish third and Club Brugge last. So exactly how this group is formed is how we expect it to go. And so Monaco most likely would be making their way to the Europa League because that's what happens with third place teams in a group. We now move on to Group B. Arguably, some would say the group of death in this year's pot or this year's draw. We see teams here that are either second place finishers, or top four finishers, or champions of their respective domestic leagues. I would say that if this is the group of death, then this is one of the two. And I'd go on to describe which other group I believe is the group of death. But this definitely is a very challenging group to be in. FC Barcelona, current La Liga champions. We have Tottenham Hotspur, who crashed out to Juventus in last year's league. We see PSV Eindhoven, and we've got Internazionale Milan. Now, all of these teams boast strong Champions League squads, and it's very important to note that this year, especially, Barcelona have boosted their team significantly. The depth that they now have is, just astounding from every area of the pitch. Tottenham have not really made any signings, but they have built upon what they've previously had before in terms of team chemistry, the understanding of each other, and they have clear objectives this season as to what they want to achieve. PSV have always been in the UEFA Champions League, never really advanced much in modern years, but they have been a Champions League team that has dominated several years before, in the early 2000s, in the 90s, they have been an astoundingly successful Champions League team. Internazionale Milan is the other Milan from AC, plays at the San Siro, and they have won the Champions League in most recent years. They won it under Jose Mourinho, who ironically lost 3-0 to Tottenham um, earlier in the Premiership, or a few weeks back. So this group here is, one full of strong teams. Um, Tottenham did actually put up a fight versus Juventus last year, and it was just, I would say, a lack of, clinicality that saw them out. Um, and to or so too did the experience of Juventus. So this is a very, very challenging group to be in. We still expect FC Barcelona to come out on top. Maybe not with, the maximum points. Maybe with 12 or 13 points. Maybe 10. Tottenham Hotspur, arguably the team who is favored to edge Inter, but Inter has been on top form with the reintroduction of Mauro Icardi to the fray. Icardi had been injured, but he came back with a bang. He finished out the season with a lot of goals, and he now has something to prove, seeing as though how he was left out of Argentina's 2018 World Cup squad. So I do believe that here we may see Barcelona and Inter advance. It may be very close between Tottenham and Inter if it's a case where Tottenham are to advance with Barcelona. PSV expected to finish last, and either Inter or Tottenham finishing second. So this group will be very interesting. We can't tell you who is going to be second, because of how strong these teams are. And it may very well be ironic that you see Barcelona coming second. And I will say this: Barcelona is always the team to top their group, always in the Champions League. But this is a very, very strong group. And so there may be draws in this group, tie games that will see the stronger or strongest team dropping crucial points. And this group decider on the last day may be very well what tells you who goes through. So the UEFA Champions League is my favorite league. I've made a point of duty. I've made it a point of duty to ensure I watch, not if not all, most of the Champions League games every single season with a bottle or a few bottles of Heineken. I ensure that this league does not miss me. Now, there are several leagues across Europe that I do indulge in, but this for me has to be my favorite, and I'll explain that. It is the League of Champions. That's why it's called the Champions League. All the different champions and the top four teams placed around Europe play each other for what is the most coveted trophy in club football. This is my favorite league because there are always a lot of upsets. There is always a higher gear that is found by teams who are champions, or teams from their domestic leagues who don't necessarily have a stake or a claim on their domestic title, but they want to be, renowned in Europe. They want to be feared as a team. So when they play other European teams, it's known that they are very potent, they're very dangerous, and they will come at you with everything they've got. With this being said, we move on to Group C. Now, for me, this is another group of death. I favor this actually more than the FC Barcelona group with Tottenham and Internazionale. I favor this more because we've got the French champions, we've got second place in Italy, and we've got the beaten finalists of the 2017-2018 season, Liverpool. So I favor this group a whole lot more for the group of death. And people may argue that, Barcelona is the strongest team in the world right now, regardless of the fact that they crashed out to AS Roma. They won two trophies. They won a third when they beat Sevilla in the Spanish Super Cup. So people may say that that is the group of death, but I think this one for me has to be it. And we see here where more teams are equally yoked. More teams here are at arguably the same level in terms of their squads, in terms of their coach, and how he can manage and rotate the squad for this competition. Because we have to remember this competition ranges throughout the entire duration of a season as well. So you've got to be fit. You've got to have fit players. You've got to have a squad that boasts, stamina throughout this entire period, because you're playing games every 2 weeks and you have all other competitions to play. You've got your domestic cup, you've got your domestic league to play. So this is a grueling competition, as is your domestic league, and everybody wants to win this one. So how do you put all that focus and attention into winning this one, as well as still performing in your domestic league? It's a very important that teams have a very good squad. Liverpool boosted their squad over the summer significantly. They have one of the arguably most strongest or the strongest teams right now across Europe and in England. Very, very, very strong midfield. The best attacking trio of the previous campaign. Napoli, for me, is also another strong team. They have still, a very good team. They play a false nine system, and they have now recently hired Carlo Ancelotti after seeing Mauricio Sarri going to Chelsea after being offered a job there. Paris Saint-Germain. We've got Tuchel. We've got a world beater in Kylian Mbappe. You've got Neymar. You have Edinson Cavani, who for me was the best striker of last season. Arguably, some would say it's Harry Kane, but for me, Edinson Cavani scores goals that require a lot of skill, a lot of that commitment to finishing the goals, a lot of hard work, because he is not necessarily played for, or the style of play isn't built around him as it is for Harry Kane. So for me, I would say Edinson Cavani works a lot harder, and he, commits and finishes in, world-class style. He did score goals in the World Cup as well that would show and prove for him as one of the best strikers in the world. So for me, this Group C here, is definitely the group of death. And we have the final team, Zvina Zveda, and or Zvezda. So that team, we know not much about that team in terms of the Champions League. They are not necessarily one of the big names where Champions League is concerned. But we will say this. There are a lot of underdog teams in the Champions League. I remember I won FC Basel, who when they played Manchester United in Europe, they beat them. So a lot of teams here seem to be, I would say underdog teams, or, you'd say that they're not going to be much. They're not going to do much. But Zvina Zvezda. Now, this team is also known as Red Star Belgrade. And Red Star Belgrade have actually came up through the qualifying rounds to make it to the Champions League. This, for me, arguably, is one of the most toughest qualifying rounds of any competition that there is in football and major football. Because for me, most teams just want to make it to the Champions League. They want exposure. They want to be known in Europe. They want to have scouts eyeing their teams. They want to have, major teams as well looking at their players so that they can export players and they can get, finances to boost their teams over the season, boost their stadiums, attract more sponsors. And so most teams, they do their best or their hardest to even make it to the Champions League. So this team, and they hail from Belgrade, right? In Serbia. This team here, they really, really, really fought hard to make it to the Champions League. So I will not consider this team to be a walkover team. I don't expect them to come third in this group, but I don't expect this team to be a walkover team either. I expect them to come with everything they've got against, the three other competitors here: Paris Saint-Germain, Napoli SC, and Liverpool FC. I expect them to come with everything they've got. So for me, this has to be the group of death. Has to be. You know what I mean? You have a lot of strong teams here. PSG also offloaded some and brought in some players. Napoli did the same. So it's going to be very interesting for Group C. I will say that Liverpool FC will advance on top here. And it will be very, very, very close for second. It may not be as close as Group B with Barcelona and Tottenham and Internazionale Milan, but it will be very close in terms of deciding maybe on the last 2 or 3 matches of this group, deciding who will advance second behind Liverpool. I would say I would want to give it to Paris Saint-Germain. Most people would do the same. They don't see Napoli as that big of a threat to, knock Paris out of, second place for this group. And I would say it is Liverpool because Liverpool have more depth. And when we talk about depth, we're not talking about only players, we're talking about quality. Paris has a very potent attack. They have very good players, but in terms of the midfield, Liverpool has a stronger midfield. Liverpool has a more experienced Champions League midfield as well, and Champions League defense. Paris Saint-Germain haven't gone far in the Champions League, far enough to be the stronger team as opposed to as opposed to Liverpool. They have gone far enough to be the stronger team as opposed to Napoli, but as opposed to Liverpool, no. Paris have been trying to go far into the Champions League. They've been trying to win it because arguably they bought Neymar because they wanted to win the Champions League. Neymar sent them home versus Barcelona in that 6-1 game, and they've been salty ever since. So they want to win the Champions League, but unfortunately, this team that they have cannot win the Champions League because there are much stronger teams, much stronger squads with more chemistry and unity among them. Paris Saint-Germain need to do much more to win the Champions League. First off, they have to have a stronger midfield. Adrien Rabiot actually wanted to leave, and so you won't see much commitment from him as you previously saw. So too did Verratti, the Italian, we'd say central defensive midfielder. Some would say attacking midfielder at times. Some would say even winger. We haven't seen from him a commitment as previously seen in previous seasons when he just went there. He was so happy to be in Paris. Now it seems that he wants to go. He's just going through the motion because he was previously denied 2 opportunities to leave. So too is Rabiot. So this Paris Saint-Germain team isn't strong enough for me to win a Champions League, but they will definitely be strong enough to finish second in this group behind Liverpool, who have a taste of blood and they want to go as far as they can in the Champions League. I don't see Liverpool winning this Champions League. However, I do see them advancing all the way to the semifinals. But it's just that they have to conquer this group.